then next, we're going to launch the second panel. The second panel will focus on the empower coordinated air and carbon emission reduction through multi-stakeholder participation. We invite those from the environmental NGOs and brands and etc. to share with us their experience. The moderator for this session is Dr. Yang Pingjian from the China Research Academy of Environmental Sciences. We have with us the panel Mr. Fei Li, Associate China Director, CDP, Wang Zifu, Sustainability Manager, Longji, Andrew Chen, Global Procurement Sustainability Lead, Polestar Automotive, Mr. Zhang Mingzhe, PSBC Credit Management Department, and Peng Huan, Supply Chain Risk Control Manager, Purchasing and Supplier Management, Schaeffler, Greater China. Please come to the stage. Okay, I'd like to invite the panelists to take their seats on the stage. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We already had 3 hours in the conference already. I believe that you must be quite tired. And just now I talked with the MC that we can try to catch up with the timing to shorten, to have kind of emission reduction for this session. And the topic for this session about the supply chain linked us together. And no matter from the work and also the delivery of the work efforts, it is always in a chain. If I can do a better job on my enterprise, we also want to bring up those on the downstream. Just now, I have shared with my former boss, Mr. Jia, and he said that because I'm the moderator for this session, he stayed.
It was Mr. Jia who gave a lecture over 14 or 15 years ago at Peking University and led me into this field. Originally, I majored in water management. In our topic, you can see the word coordination or synergy. We're also talking about synergy between the government, companies, etc. When it comes to reducing emission, it also covers the companies and our lifestyle, etc. We have representatives from the companies, also from civil society. I'll just skip the introduction part and directly move on to the key discussion. I want to first invite Li Fei from CDP. You know, the CDP started very early on carbon disclosure. Can you please tell us why is this important? Why does the company have to disclose their carbon data? And Chinese companies may be lagging behind. What is it that they can catch up on with their international counterparts? Are there any latest international trends? Can you limit within 6 minutes? Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Yang. Hello, everyone. I'm from CDP. My name is Li Fei. It's a great honor to have been invited by IPE to attend today's forum. Actually, CDP is already briefly introduced. CDP is an international organization founded in 2000, headquartered in Britain. It's the biggest environmental database for companies. Every year, with a lot of investment institutions and brands, we would work together to promote the disclosure among the companies in their supply chain. We focus on 3 topics. First, climate change. We know CDP started right from climate change. Our first project was called Carbon Disclosure Project. And later on, our disclosure gradually extended to water resources, forest damage, etc. So our official name is CDP. To respond to the questions before, I would start from companies, including Chinese companies, disclosure on the CDP platform. According to our investigation, so far 13,000 companies around the world have disclosed the information on our platform. The biggest two stakeholders are first the 590 investment institutions who are our partners. They altogether take up 1/3 of the global fund under management. And then, together with 200 brands across the world, we are also having partnership. Their procurement altogether will total 500 billion US dollars. So through both channels, we have been promoting environmental disclosure among the world's companies. CDP also has a questionnaire system that aims at uh, comparing between companies and helping companies face their own challenges. So far, as I said, 13,000 of them, and of which 1,500 are from China. There are two types of companies. The first type are invited by the investors. Most of them are listed companies. This year, we're very happy to see that in China, 95 listed companies have started disclosing information related to climate change driven by their investors, and the rest are suppliers. On the CDP platform, it can be seen that China is still a major manufacturer. Our export is also huge. Even having the COVID-19 last year, the suppliers are still totaling 1,300, almost twice the average. So is there any gap between Chinese companies and foreign companies? And what are the things that Chinese companies can improve on? For example, if we study the listed companies, you can see that Chinese companies already have a relatively high governance level, almost equal to that of their foreign counterparts. 93% of the Chinese companies at the board level have discussions, and global ratio is 95 or 96%. If you look at the specific indicators, for example, goals, whether they have a goal, 50% of the questionnaire answerers do not have a plan. I would like to add here that the CDP questionnaire study or data release was right when President Xi Jinping announced the dual target. So this year we're expecting a surge in the number of plants. And then let's look at the suppliers. Suppliers are driven by their brands. Clients are also making efforts to combat climate change. You can see 90% of the suppliers have integrated this into their plan, into their future service providing. 19% might not sound a lot, but that's already 50% more than previous years. So to meet the demand of clients, if suppliers are integrating low carbon into their goods and service designing, and this will be a very clear trend in the future. And finally, I would like to share with you some of our insights. Our topic this session is multi-stakeholder participation. in the governance, we do believe that multi-stakeholder participation is crucial. At CDP, we have a very good example. You know, Walmart, the supermarket, starting from 2006 and 7, its investors required it to do disclosure. And 2 years later, it realized that the CDP platform can also be used to manage its sustainable development of the supply chain. So in 2008, with Walmart and several other brands, CDP introduced its supply chain tool, and it's been operating for 15 years. Starting from Walmart, a lot of the consumer goods brands were also introduced into this. For example, L'Oreal. L'Oreal also began to utilize the CDP platform and invited its suppliers to use this too. For example, Lu Zhixin, who not only met the Walmart's emission reduction target, and in China, it also stimulated its own suppliers to meet their own targets. So the multi-stakeholder mechanism can create a synergy, and layer by layer, the rippling effect is created along the value chain. So we can reduce emission. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. The disclosure regarding disclosure, I think China is still trying to catch up, but we are, of course, very fast. And next, I would like to invite Mr. Wang from Longji. We know that Longji is a leading player in the PV industry. Can you please share with us a concept in Longji called solar for solar? So to create renewable with renewable, what is it that you're doing to create this effect along the value chains? You have 6 minutes. Thank you for the invitation. Many people learn about Longji from the capital market. The company is actually a very old one. It was established in 2000 in Xi'an. That was where we started, from the western part of the country. And later on, our production base began to spread around the country. In 2006, we began to enter the PV industry, and so far, we are one of the biggest PV product makers, also having the highest market value in the industry. So the industry we are in is special. It has its characteristics. It is an industrial, it is a global industry at its very infancy. China has the manufacturer link, and the technology equipment links are all overseas. So we started by taking over the technologies back into the companies in China. So PV companies, when confronted by climate change, are aware of the high energy consumption of the PV industry. That's also an important thing for us to realize. So at Longji, in the past decade's development, we've been devoted to technological innovation the whole time. We're trying to use more low-cost and clean PV products. The R&D and manufacture of such products, we're supplying this to the whole world. By doing so, we're facilitating the transformation of the whole world, and this is our contribution to low carbon and green development. This is the #1 task of a PV company. And then, as you have mentioned, we believe that our motivation is not totally external. We're also proactive in adopting the green low carbon strategy. PV itself is a clean energy, and our very original wish is for the world to be better. Otherwise, we wouldn't even enter this industry. The cost is very high. With the cost coming down in the past decade, we have seen a drop of over 90%. And we also have wind energy and energy storage technology. With all these progress and advancements, I think the dual targets were created, and in these would be, and this indeed is a part of our contribution. And we believe in green manufacturing. So in 2015, we went to Yunnan because Yunnan has the richest hydro resource in China, while PV power generation requires electricity. If we power that with coal-fired power plants, that would be not green at all. So we sought after green energy. So we also stimulated the green value chain in Yunnan, which has now become one of the aces of Yunnan's development. So this is a coordination between environmental development and economic development. Green power usage in Yunnan has decreased our own emission, and compared with the northwestern part using coal-fired power plants, the cost is even lower. So this also is good for the profit of the company. And after these two things, we began to reach to a larger crowd of partners. This is what we started doing in 2018. We began to think about whether from using hydropower to power PV products. So we are thinking whether we can use solar to create solar.
But we need large scale and low-cost scenarios, and that pointed to us in a direction, especially now with the 3060 targets. According to our understanding, it is on the supply chain, industrial chain of the PV. So this is also a specific embodiment of the concept of carbon neutrality. So last year, with the R100 EV 100 and EP 100, we made a commitment, and before 2028, we want to realize 100% of renewables. And in 2020, our progress was 41.83%, and we're going to have annual monitoring with our sustainable reports. We want to have a disclosure, and the initiative was launched by the authority and EV 100. We are going to install more charging pillars and to encourage our staff to replace the cars with EV and SEVPR. And we joined last year, and this year our targets have been made. Very rapidly, we will launch the result. So for SEPR, we have this deep feeling that we need to collaborate with the suppliers at the downstream. With zero reduction of carbon, can we help realize the carbon reduction for us? And we've done a lot of work recently, and we have the honor that we've done some work, and that's not enough, of course. And the IPE can see that we've made some progress, and they give us very high say. Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker, panelist is from the PSBC, Mr. Zhang. We know that for the financial industry, it is at the upstream. When I was working locally, a lot of people say that no matter how environmental you are, and it's better for you to tell the governors of the bank so that they will bring up the whole industry to be more environmental. So, Mr. Wang, about the dual carbon targets, especially now, the capital is with a big demand. So before this kind of historical opportunities in terms of green finance, what kind of discussions there are, and also for the commercial banks, what kind of difficulties and challenges there are. Also 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Thank you for your invitation. And next, I'd like to give you some report for the PSBC, some exploration, many from 5 aspects. First of all, from the top design, actually, the basis is very green. For our PSBC, we have the green background. We started from the small and micro enterprises in 2017. Our board of directors have approved the green credit plan. And this year, in August, at the intermediate report, we also have touched upon it. In the 14th five-year plan, we also had that, and it defined the positioning of the PSBC, and we have the public welfare, green, and wealth, as well as scientific finance. So our positioning is about the green and universal, so that we can build the green universal bank and a climate-friendly bank. So we had a very clear target, and that guided us in the future 5 years. And that's the first part. The second, in terms of policy, no matter for the industrial policy, the innovation and the monitoring and the ratification. And I have 2 parts to share with you. On September the 21st, President Xi declared that we're not going to support the overseas coal-fired power plants. And also, actually, in the fourth quarter, in the PSBC and our internal documents, we stopped the support for the overseas high carbon consumption industries. And in the 2021 China Finance version edition 2, we also further identified these efforts. So in the internal transfer pricing, we try to apply to the this kind of spirit. And thirdly, we always say that we have the green finance monitoring, and internally, we also did a lot of efforts, and we have a very differentiated pricing. And when I communicated with them, I asked about the capital coefficient, only 98%. Now our target is about 95%. So the overall volume will not change, but we'll have some structural adjustment internally. And thirdly, we needed to have product innovation. This year, our focus is on 2 aspects. We collaborative with RDC. In the pilot program of the UN in Zhejiang, we had the carbon credit program. And this year we collaborated with Beijing. And also we collaborated with the Shanxi Jinan Power Company, and we issued 500 million of credit program. And fourthly, about risk management. Starting from 2019, we collaborated with the IPE, Mr. Ma, in the Blue Map collaboration. We connected the information to the operation system of our bank. So we use the system to do management. In May this year, we deepened our collaboration by using our platform. From May the 15th, and we did some carbon evaluation calculation. That is also a very important part. On July the 30th in Zhejiang, Chongqing, etc., we had the trials. And we have a pilot in 36 provinces and cities. And then we have completed 71 pilot enterprises projects. And we also try to promote the collaboration with our partners. And this year, we also had the thermal power and the cement industry program. And about the information disclosure, May the 17th, we joined PRP. And that's also the benchmarking with international practice. For the future, about the future direction, we have the following aspects. First of all, we're going to complete the government regulations furthermore. And in the 14th five-year plan, we did some research, and it was also mentioned in the government that we're going to have a special plans. So we talk a lot about the policies already. Thank you. Okay. We don't have 2 minutes, I'm sorry. So first of all, farmer laws and regulations, second, product innovation, and also for the small and the micro enterprise product innovation, and also the climate-related capacity improvement. And fourthly, from the perspective of bank, to do research and make the commercial bank roadmap and timetable. Thank you. Thank you. Limited by time, green finance is a very important topic, of course, but in the future, in the reduction of pollution and realizing the 36 targets, this is a very important topic. If we have more opportunity, we can have more in-depth discussion. Today, we have very limited time. I know that you still want to have a lot to talk about. Next, Mr. Chen from Polestar Automotive. And Polestar is a very low-key company, similar with your parent company, Volvo. And you have put forward an ambitious target, not only for yourself, but also for the supply chain management. I want to invite you to share with us how Polestar managed the carbon emission, especially as a new energy company. In Mr. Ma's presentation, he also mentioned that for the EV, like a Tesla, there are a lot of problems. You have 6 minutes. Good afternoon. I'm the Global Procurement System Lead of a Polestar Automotive, Andrew Chen. When I was invited into the panel, I felt really surprised because there are a lot of stakeholders sitting here, and we have Lunji as our clean charging provider, and we have the data reporting platform, and Schaeffler is also our main supplier, and for PSBC, they are our partner. So how to realize the carbon neutrality? It was promoted by all the people on the chain, and it is not, and also the EV is also the kind of way for the individual emission reduction. So if you become our car owner, you will also make your individual contribution. And we are founded by Volvo and Geely. We're a high-performance EV brand. We are headquartered at Gothenburg of Sweden. At the beginning of the founding, we strive to become the sustainable leader of automotive manufacturing. I think for all the planning, product design, etc., the carbon emission will be taken into consideration. And in April this year, we have published the so-called moon landing project by 2030. We want to create a zero carbon footprint EV. We call it Project Zero. And also, we published the 2040 climate neutrality program, on basis of which, together with PSBC, we joined the alliance of the Shanghai Exchange. So generally speaking, for other OEMs in Chengdu, they have realized 100% of renewable energy in power, and they got the green, the LEED certification. So for the following plan, we're going to join Volvo, the green power program, to realize 100% of green power by 2025. At present, we are setting up projects for the suppliers to calculate the emission borders and to design the scope of emission. We're going to adopt the calculation tools and to summarize the emission data and to upload it to the CDP platform. We also invited a lot of well-known companies in the industry to help us help our suppliers to put forward the roadmap and put forward proposals. In this process, I'd like to mention, because the automotive supply chain is relevant with a wide range of area, for each automobile, it is relevant with 20,000 parts and components and 1,000 suppliers. In the industry, we always say that automotive EV is with the battery. So in the manufacturing, the carbon emission is bigger than the ICE vehicles. A lot of people are talking about whether the EV is really environmental. With that question in mind, we have done the research on the second version, the full life cycle analysis from raw material to the from cradle to gate. For the Polestar 2, the emission was 26 tons. In the utilization, we analyzed the different usage scenarios.
If the vehicle is charged with hybrid electricity by the 70th kilometer, the carbon emission on average will be lower than same level than the petrol than the gasoline automobile of the same level, and then after that the carbon emission will be lower than the gas vehicle. This is also listed on our official website. We're trying to encourage more brands to join us in assessing their own, in evaluating their own emission. And in the future, all the vehicles we develop will never exceed the 260,000 tons emission. So that is a label we're trying to create for our vehicles. But we also identified that all the emission sources are mostly concentrated on the raw material. For example, aluminum and the battery groups take up 75% of the total raw material emission. So the Project Zero project aims at reducing the emission related to raw material down to zero. So all the recycling and environmental protective materials are all centered around this. Thank you, Mr. Chen. We have one final speaker in this panel. Well, before coming here, I was reminded by the organizer that Schaeffler experienced a PR accident related to environmental protection. But I think we're all interested in this. You were drawn into the tornado of public opinion, but as you are sitting here, I think there must have been significant changes at Schaeffler. And I'm wondering, what have you done over the past year? Thank you. I'm very happy, very excited to be here today. This is the second time I attend the CATI release. The first time was in deep autumn 2015, late autumn. I was here for the identification of risks along the supply chain, and this time I'm here as a manager and solution provider for the value chain risks. So we have two topics today. First, multi-stakeholder participation, and then emission, pollution reduction and emission reduction. I'm very happy to see so many iron and steel companies joining us in the Zoom broadcasting. So that is multi-stakeholder participation. They also send me a lot of messages they're interested in. We know that traditionally the supply chain management is based on QCD, so quality, cost, and delivery. But with the more and more strict legislation and regulations, without obeying the laws and regulations, that might be even shut down and be subject to fines. And fines for SMEs, it might mean bankruptcy. So in risk management and control, the first important point is sustainable development, and second, compliance. In the past years, Schaeffler has been making efforts in the following aspects. First, establish our behavior code for our suppliers. This was updated this August. Two concepts were introduced: first, sustainable development, and then climate protection. For our suppliers, we raised several requirements. First, reduce GHG emission. Second, participate in influential ranks in the world. So in the behavior code, it was especially mentioned that CDP must be joined because CDP is highly influential. And thirdly, we want them to disclose the product's carbon footprint. We also provide them with guidance, a good calculation method for carbon footprint, including ISO 14046, 14017. So apart from that, we also established a sustainable management procedure for suppliers. We require all the suppliers in mainland China for direct materials and those highly risky indirect materials to go through the verification. If in the process we discovered in compliance, we would require them to solve the problem on environmental protection. Only after that can we sign a contract, and we have follow-up check 100%. We also established a daily alerting mechanism through the IPE big platform. We urge the companies to solve the problems in their IPE records. We also receive IPE push the information about the supplier, and sometimes even without the suppliers themselves knowing, we already know where the incompliance took place. We also invite third parties to carry out a big data analysis, which covers several aspects. First, the incompliance risk of the supplier, and then the major political and economic issues at home and abroad, because that has an impact on the supply chain. For example, air quality and the expressway landscape. And a couple of days ago, we held the annual meeting for the suppliers. I delivered a keynote speech. In that speech, I especially stressed that they need to utilize IPE to manage themselves, and this must be passed on to their supply chain, their own supply chain management. And number 4, at Schaeffler, we also had this supply image for multiple dimensions. So we create evaluation for them. For all the new projects, we involve sustainable development into it, especially whether the supplier is participating in our energy saving and emission reduction. So this is our efforts in reducing pollution. On emission reduction, I think I'm running out of time. I may maybe going very fast. Schaeffler is among the 50 global climate leaders. So we established our own goals. With energy, we have the following aspects. By the end of 2021, we want to keep our CDP ranking at A minus, and then our energy saving has to reach 100 million kilowatt hour, and then by 2030, we want to achieve 100% sustainable procurement, and by 2030, carbon neutrality in all our bases across the world. And later on, our goal will be released to the public. I think you may be focusing on Schaeffler because our main products are bearings. And you know the bearings are metal made. So in our supply chain, our most important project is green steel. So with all the iron and steel companies, we are discussing new possibilities. I had wanted you to save me 10 seconds or 20 seconds for the summary, so I'll skip the summary. I think that all my panelists have illustrated the topic very well, coordinated, multi-stakeholder. We have people representing the banks, the companies, suppliers, etc. I think when we work together, we can make everything better. Thank you.
感谢刚才6位嘉宾非常精彩和详实的介绍。
very much.
我们上午已经结束的2场对话呢，主要是从产业的角度分享了各自领域。
Our previous 2 panels talked about their practices in their respective industries, with the public gaining a better awareness. More and more people in their consumption wish to consider environmentally friendliness and low carbon development. Next, we invited brands covering our clothing, food, and building, etc. We're very happy to have invited the senior journalist, Madam Sun Shouyan from People's Daily, who will be the moderator, and our panelists include Madam Chen, Kathy Chen, Head of Internal Communication Sustainable Danone, Sun Ling Tao, Vice General Manager, Mr. Yuan Xiaohua, Vice General Manager of CSI Department Grand Blue, and Gu Ren, Vice Chairman of the Board Director SEM Kao Group. Madam Luo Dan, General Manager of FNC IV Pension Services, Deputy Leader of China Real Estate Green Supply Chain Working Group, and Madam Tina Wu, Sustainability Consultant Manager Environment of Nike, and Mr. Gu Ren and Madam Tina Wu will be joining us from online platforms. Okay, so you can see all our panelists are female panelists, and our 2 male panelists are online. I feel a lot of pressure today, especially time-wise, while the brands here are big brands.
我声音还够大，大家听得见吧？
对对对，
听得见吧？这个我觉得我们的话题比较软，大家可以畅所欲
Our
言。
topic is a very flexible one, so you can just say anything you like, and maybe we can even have some interaction with the audience. Danone is heard in every possible way. We have their yogurt, we have their biscuits, crackers, etc. I think Danone has announced its plan to achieve zero wastages with, as well as to reduce its packages. What are the efforts made at Danone? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here today. So starting from 1:30, I have been very excited. This is the first time of my attending an IBE event. I learned a lot.
作为这个分享的嘉宾，那我今天来跟大家分享一下达能
Today, I want to share with
这
you
一块儿的一些目标以及最新的实
Danone's
现。
goals
那
and
么达能的话
practices
呢，我们是全球
on low
知名的
carbon.
一家跨国的
Danone is
食
a
品加企业。
famous
那么我们目前呢，有
cross-border
7大板块。
food and
首
beverage
先是
company. We have
熟
three
悉的
businesses.
基础乳制品
First,
和
you
芝士
know,
品
dairy
类。
products
那么还
and
有
plant-based
水果饮
products,
料，
and
以及
then
可
potable
持续发展
water
那么
and
我们
beverage,
任
and
何
then
的
special
这
medical
些产
food.
品呢，基本上都是非常健康的这个
All
食
our
品品
products
类。
are
而
very
我们
healthy,
的整体的行动框架叫做
and
共
our
享
action
共
framework
享健康
is
共富地球。
shared
那听到这
health
样的
and
一些框架
protected
呢，其实
earth.
可以去了解。
From
那我们
this, you
认为
can
人类
already
健康
see
是
that
最
we
是
believe
最
the
息
human
息相
health
关的。
and the
那么我
earth
们所
health
倡导的
are
是更
related
健
to
康
each
更
other.
可持续发展的这样的一个
We
世界。
advocate a
那么
healthy
在碳的这一块儿来讲呢，
diet.
其实我们早在2015 年，
On the carbon front, in
我们是
2015,
要在2020
we
年
already
开
issued
始产业链上的一个零排
our
放。
goal to
那么
achieve
在
a
2017
zero
的时候
carbon
呢，
emissions
是机会
on
看
the
到
whole value chain.
我们要在范围
And then in 2017, in category 1, category 2, we aim at
这样的一个数据。
achieving by 2030 a 30% decrease compared with 2015.
排放的这个总
And then in terms of emission intensity, we also want to make a 50%
这样的一个目
drop.
标的一个设定，
So
其实呢也是基于我们非常
this target
这样的一个
is also
数据的一个
generated by our tracking of our own emission. So in 2008, for the first time, we carried out our whole value chain carbon emission for our products, which was good for our scientific learning of our carbon emission and the creation of a roadmap.
In 2019, we've already realized in our group the overall carbon peaking. So in last year, the carbon emission of the group compared with 2019 reduced by 1 million tons. And I'm very glad to report to you that in 2020, in the first New Zealand infant formula production base, we realized the carbon neutrality, and also our global mineral water brand Evian have also realized the carbon neutrality in 2021. So coming back to the question of Mr. You talked about the packaging, how we reduce the carbon emission. Actually, the packaging is also a very important part in the energy efficiency. And the low carbon packaging and the zero carbon packaging will be one of the important direction. We've mentioned the Evian, and we've realized the carbon neutrality. And in China, without hurting the quality of the product, we had another brand called Pulse in China. We tried to develop a better packaging in order to have a more renewable packaging. So we accumulated a lot of experience. I believe that except for doing that, and our impact on the public is going to focus more on the other aspects. When we talk about the carbon neutrality, it's more of the synergy we formed for society and different aspects. So we try to do the design for different kind of ways, and we try to
这些方面对公众带来给公众一些影响。
We try to influence the public at the same time. So for the logo of Avion, we also have this logo. So it is not only enterprise mission, but also the public publicity is also very important. In Huangpu District, Shanghai, last year, we had the bottle recycler machine, and we encourage a lot of we rolled them out in Disneyland to encourage the public to recycle the used bottles so that they can accumulate some energy and some credit. With this kind of a public initiative, our daily life will have a better understanding on the recyclability of the plastics. Talking about the waste online, we have Mr. Yuan from Hannan. We know that except for the plastics in our daily life, we also have some unicity waste, and those are going to be delivered to the incineration plant. So, Mr. Yuan, for the treatment of the waste, especially in the categorization of waste, what kind of impact it will have on your end? Some people say that if there are too much plastics, the dioxin emission will be very high. Can you share with us? First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Sun for giving us this opportunity. And I also hope that you can, thank you very much for your attention. And for our company, we are a company dealing with the municipal waste and also some industrial waste, like in the forestry and farming. For the municipal waste, it is, first of all, those not incinerated. And also we deal with the sorted waste. No matter it is sorted or not, we try to make them more resource-based treatment. And we can further utilize them to further reduce the carbon emission. For example, we have a project and we sorted the municipal waste, and then we will further utilize the sorted waste, for example, the grease. And also we can use some of the waste for production of methane gas. So for the methane and the biodiesel, the production was quite high. And that also replaced the coal-fired power generation. So the carbon emission per year will be around 700,000 tons. So for the sorting of the municipal waste, if you want to talk about what kind of impact on us, we want to encourage the public to jointly do a better job on the municipal waste sorting so that we can further have a better utilization of those waste. That's for me. Mr. Yuan, I have another question. For example, Jiafeng also advocated the opening of the environmental facilities. I believe that the waste treatment plant is also a very good way to educate the public. Do you have any plans to have some visiting routes so that it can be involved into the opening campaign to the public?
是的，这个呢，我们啊，应该说我们这个生活垃圾焚烧发电厂呢，是同时呢，我们有多个项目。
Say that we have different models.
像我们南海的项目，像
It is an educational base, and we have a lot of projects. They have opened the public educational base. And there are about hundreds of thousands of people visiting our educational base. And they will start from the generation of the waste to the treatment. We have a lot of entertainment and education programs designed in it so that we can help the public to understand how to lead a low carbon life, to change the the waste generation, and the less the waste, the better. So in the process, some environmental facilities and some logics will also be demonstrated in the educational programs. We hope that we can improve the public awareness, which is an important task for us. And we're making a lot of efforts on that and very good results. Thank you, Mr. Yuan. We also look forward that in the future we can visit your facility. Okay, you're more than welcome. Welcome.
我们线上呢，
And online, we have another guest
是花王的顾总。
from Cal.
我们知道这个花王啊，
We know that KO Cal had a lot of experience in the reduction of plastic use. I heard one of the panelists mentioning the new pollutants. They're talking about the microplastics. I think for Cal, as a professional provider, their concern on the microplastics are also very important. So can you share with us the microplastics and what kind of insights there are for Cal? First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation for participating into this panel. In light of time, I'm not going to introduce my company anymore, and I will directly answer your question. We believe that the plastics is definitely the mainstream packaging material for this industry. And in the full life cycle of it, like the production of raisins and the formation, and also the discarding, there will be a lot of waste generated in this process and some very direct impact on the environment. And also, it was called upon that the enterprises need to reduce their usage of plastics to reduce emission. First of all, the demand management to reduce the usage of plastic. And second, we can use renewables to replace the petrochemical. And also we can use the bio-based plastics. And the demand management will play the most direct and effective role to reduce the carbon print. So for Cal, we utilize this point. And we made a lot of achievements on that. I think they have very good timing. Thank you. And maybe we will ask you later.
对我自己来说，您说您讲。
Okay. Okay. Except for reducing the usage of plastics, we also have the following efforts in terms of technology, and a lot of achievements have been made. First of all, the packaging and how to reduce the pump usage, and also the passing components. And we gradually reduced the passing components of pumps from 70 to 14, and 25% of reduced plastic use. And we also do have some new form of plastics to reduce the thickness. And we also extended our technology research and developed some membrane materials. And at present, we try to develop some new technologies, especially we have the supercritical technology, and we injected some of the special gases, some retarded gas, so as to reduce the usage of plastics. I believe that the mature technology usage will definitely contribute to the reduced plastic usage in China. Thank you.
谢谢郭总。
Thank you, Mr. Guo.
提个我对于您的企业
I think I have a very important proposal
不
for
能
your
光说
company.
做，
We should not always
你把这个包装
only
出来
doing.
给他，
We can
他也知
also
道你们
talk
这个
when the consumers do not know. So in making the advertisement, you should not only
效应
tell
好，
them
我
how
我的这
good
个
the
流
performance
量是
is.
怎么样，
And you should also
在
share
广
with
告
them
怎么
the
跟
efforts
客
you've
户
made
是什么，
on
一
the
次性的行
environment,
动，
what you have done
再
for
给
the
大家来
planet
分享
Earth,
我
so
们
that
这个
you
简
can
单的合
mobilize
作，
them to
非
be
常
involved
好。
into the carbon reduction efforts.
谢
Thank you.
这个
Thank you for your proposal, and we're going to make more efforts on that.
那确实我们现在实际上
Yes,
在我们的产品
actually,
上面
in some of the
在
products,
助力推进的一
we
些
are
非油的一些产品的
assisting the
扩展
refill
应用，那么
product
也减少
utilization
消费者
and try to
提出的
guide
一
some
个
of
生产
the
实现他们的环保
consumers to improve their low
再
carbon
谢谢这个
life
谢
willingness.
谢郭
Thank you.
总。
Thank you, Mr.
我
Guo.
觉得就是默默工作的不光是花花
So not only Cal, for
朗诗的这个
the
总是吧？
other
这个朗诗，我
um,
基本
companies
上是
like
每年都在这个 C 端上看到朗
the
诗，而且在各种绿色的
in a
这
lot
个
of
论坛
reports
上
we've
看到
seen
朗诗，
Lancy
但是我真不知
and
道
I
在
didn't know
默默
that
工作的背后，
Lancy,
是不是
except for their
真的
silent
真的
contribution,
是
what
结
they
果作
have
为消费者，作为我
promoted
们每个人的
as a
房子，
consumer,
其实
everybody
对
will
购
live
房
in the
节的
house.
关注
So
是不够的。至少我在
the
购房的过程中，我没有
purchasing the
关注
house,
到
I
我这
didn't
个
focus too
房子
much
节
on
能的，我
the
没有
energy
看到。
efficiency of
我
the
期待的
building.
是
What we
把
look
我
forward to will be a
这
large
个
glass
通过了
window
今天
and very
这个
large,
房子的
very
承重，
spatial
我的工
room
程怎么样？
and the
它是不是
insulation, the
有自
thickness
己
of
专
the
有的这
deck,
个运
whether
动窗
there
也
is
好，还是怎么样也好，我没有
some
关注到。所以我觉得朗诗这么
thermal
多年
pump,
做了这么
etc.
这么多
So
工作，
with
带动
so
了上万
much
的工
effort
业
you've
的绿
made, you
色
have
化，
brought up
但
the
是
green
没有
development of the
把
up and
消费者的
downstream,
教育
but you
做好，
didn't
我觉得还是
educate
很遗
the
憾。但是我
consumers
们
too
还是想
much.
请罗总
So
分
I'd
享
like
一
to
下
invite
你们
Mr.
在
Luo
这
to
么
share
多
with
年的工
us
作里边做了什
your
么？谢谢。
experience in the
谢谢
past
谢谢
years.
谢谢
Thank
您
you.
这么了解
Thank
朗
you
诗。
for understanding
我
Lancy
来
so
自朗
much.
诗，
I'm from
在过去
Lancy,
的
and
大
in
概
the
8年时
past
间，我
8
在
years
朗
of
诗集团负
time,
责采
in
购。
Lancy, I'm
大概
responsible for
8
the
年的时候，
procurement
我们
in
做了一些调整，
2018.
那
I
我依
did
然
some
在朗诗
adjustment
集
on my
团，
position, but I'm still
同时我
working
也
for
依然在从
Lancy.
事
And
绿色相关的
I'm
事情。通过
I
绿
was
色供应
involved
链，其实朗
into
诗
the
集团
green
所有
related
人都开始
job,
关注
and
这
a lot
项
of people
工作。
started
那
to
朗
focus
诗
on
确
these
实在
efforts.
2001年
And
成立的时候，
in
我们
when we were
是
established
进入了
in
房地产领域，但是
2001,
在
we
成
tapped
立的时
into the
候
real
非常
estate
激进
market.
的
At the
认
beginning of
为
the founding, we
用绿
firmly
色基
hold
础
that
来
we should use the
做
green
一个
technology
我们说绿建的住宅，
to
可能
build
它真的
the
是以
green
人为本这样的一个
building.
现形。
And
其实中国的房地产
in the
相关的
Chinese real
建
estate
材
market
行业在
and
产
in
生
the
跟
beauty
设计到运
market,
输的过程
from
中，
the
对
production
中
to
国
the
的碳排放，包括
transportation,
环境污
the
染的
carbon
影响，
emission
严重是非
and
常高的。
and
我觉得
pollution, the
可能接近
proportion is
30%的
very
也不
big
止。
one.
但是这个行业其实也有它的这个发展阶段性的一些问
But
题，因为
this
它没有大
industry
的
also
像工业
has
那样子。
its own
基础建的
problem
话，
due
生
to the
产
current
它整个
stage
的
it
生产
is
阶段
at.
中
There
间
isn't
往这个
standardized
很多的
production
现场去完成。
like in
它本身也
manufacturer.
是
A
一个
lot
绿
of
电
things
的
are
这样的
figured
一个
out
生
on
产过
site
程。所以这一
and
切
it
都
has
的
its
供应
own
链管理，认
pace.
为
So
在制造
the
绿箱
supply
它
chain
的这样的一个
management for this
难度
industry compared
在
with the other
不经
industry
意
is
在
quite
过去的10
difficult.
几年的过程当中，
And
我们更加专注
in the
做
past
提高
decade,
这个低能耗，像刚才
we
说是
focused more
我们
on
是高
providing
同
the
时是
low
一个经济
energy
可承受
cost
的一个
and
这样的
highly
一个成本，
comfortable
才真正的能够
residence
运营好。
buildings for
而
our
更多的
clients
是
because
能
it
够为
reduces
更
cost
多的这样
and
绿色
provides
的
better
才能够
experience
这
for the
样供给。
customers.
在
And
其
that
实不管
guarantees the
工业领域
future
也好，
green
还
construction
是
supply
像这个生产者
for the consumers.
也好，
So
因为
no
像您说的
matter
需求
in
的
terms of
需求
production
它的不同
or
导致我们的消费
consumption,
成本刚
as
性
you said, a lot of
这样一个
people don't
不
understand this
对于工业
concept.
行业
So for such an industry, it's very difficult to gain a rapid development, but the dual targets proved to be a good opportunity. In 2006, we got to know Mr. Ma and his team, and he told me that in the past, we focused only on the performance of the architectures, but for example, insulating glasses can bring a lot more value to the consumers. We have huge pressure on our value chain. Those procurement is not directly reflected in our in our supply chain management. Together with our suppliers, we are mostly engaged in a partner relationship. Starting from 2010, Lancy joined the biggest real estate alliance through joint procurement. We hope to leverage a bigger economic effect with a bigger team. We can create more awareness among the suppliers. We can also help them reduce the cost due to the economy of scale. Because the cost has to be higher with better supply chain management. It might be economic, it might be material wise, but with more procurement carried out, they can find alternatives. So through this way of management, we were basically urging the suppliers into doing so. That has to do with a lot of changes in our model of working. But I think Mr. Ma has provided us with a very good working method. We have a very good working platform with all the open information. A lot of the formerly invisible way of communication is revealed. For example, when you cannot meet the requirement today, you can tell us when you can meet the requirement. So we are inviting more buyers into this alliance to observe such a change. And this was launched in 2015. We started from 4 categories and 4 standards, which respond to 4 different ways of management. Now there are altogether 10 categories. It doesn't look like much, but for each category, the real estate companies have to do a lot of work. So this is actually a quite complex process, growing from 4 categories to 10, and from 48 real estate companies to over 100. Procurement value has exceeded 20 billion. We are making explorations step by step. So with the CATI index being released today, I think real estate companies can leverage a bigger part of the industry to pay attention to this. Thank you. So from 4 to 10, from a dozen to over 100, and all of these numbers represent an even bigger amount of carbon emission reduction. We do hope that you can work together with more parties to stimulate the awareness of the public, so we can actually create a market that bears profits. Nike is a favorite brand by everybody. You have this concept of net zero, and you have developed this new technology of recycling the old soles. Can you introduce to us the concept and how it is realized? Thank you. Thank you all. I also want to thank Mr. Ma for giving Nike this opportunity to share with you our work in wastage reduction. And carbon emission reduction, I had thought along about whether we should translate our strategy into Chinese, but I decided to go with English. Our package is already different. It's just a wood color without any painting, and internally there is only some paper. Originally, there was a card inside instructing our buyers how to wash, how to maintain the shoes, but there is no longer that already. Wastage reduction is planned at Nike for every 5 years. By 2025, our goal is to reduce the solid waste amount generated and also to achieve 80% of recycling of the wastage. This is the future 5-year plan, and we have basically achieved the goal. And for recycling, of course, you would always have redundant materials, and we would recycle these to the other links of production. If you bought Go to Zero products, you would see colorful rubber particles forming the bottom of the shoes, and this is exactly made with the rubber we recycled from the previously redundant material and other, for example, EVA material are also recycled. And then we also have a project with the name Nike Grand. We promote these materials to other industries. For example, at the playground or basketball court, a lot of the ground is made with Nike waste. And Nike Grande also provides supporting materials in bicycle production. I think Mr. Ma organized a very good panel. We are covering all aspects of our life. These all mean greatly to our future lifestyle that's oriented at low carbon. And you also have different target groups. For example, Nike mostly on young people, and Danone mostly on people who just became mothers or families, and then Lancy maybe on office buildings, decision makers at the companies, and Kao mostly for female, and Grand Blue maybe an even bigger crowd. So looking into the future, can you please share with us your wish for the future regarding public promotion? Let's start from Madam Chen.
好，那个刚刚孙老师的问题是说，我们用一句话。
Okay, so we can summarize this wish in one sentence, how we can interact better with the public in the future. Just like every speaker has mentioned this afternoon, it's not any single industry or company that can fulfill the dual carbon targets. We have brands, we have civil society, the government, and most importantly, every individual. So in the future, we hope that everyone can understand, know about, and advocate low carbon behavior, just like what Mr. Jia has done today. Thank you. Okay, this is an IP event. I like the future map a lot. For everybody on the value supply chain, we like this concept, and together with other companies, we want to march towards a better future. So lady first. Well, I think I agree with my previous panelists. We're all in this industry together, and I hope we can all share this with the people we know, no matter the brands or the companies, we can do this together. Let's do this together. Mr. Gu, please.
能听见理解吗？
I hope you can hear me well.
那么刚才实际上那个主持人已经是对
Well, just now,
在耕耘，但是我
the
们
moderator has already criticized the call for simply doing the work without telling it to our consumers. I do think that this is exactly what we need to do in the future.
消费者的这个意识，因为我们本身我们也是消费者之中的一员。我相信
We are also consumers ourselves through our concerted efforts.
一定会带来
A low carbon life
更好的一个蓝天。
will be achieved and we will have a bluer sky. Thank you, Mr. Yuan.
畅想未来呢，我们希望
Looking into the future, we hope that through everybody's efforts, the wastes can become resources. So we will be living a low carbon, low wastage future style life. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yuan. While I am a journalist, I am only working part-time as a moderator here. So I'm only listening here, but I'm very happy to have heard all these excellent remarks. Thank you all very much for your participation. Thank you.
再次感谢孙老师以及5位嘉宾的
Thank you, Madam Sun, and thank you all to our panelists for sharing with us.
所有发言的嘉宾。
Also, I would like to thank all the speakers today. So we have been through all the sharing items on the agenda. In the end, I would like to invite Mr. Ma to summarize our meeting today and lead us into the future of our work. We're all true love here gathering together. This has lasted very long, I know. Thank you all, Dr. Ma, Dr. Yang, for still being here. And I also want to thank everybody for being here. And especially, just like Madam Sun said, we are seeing a much better gender balance in the last panel. And this is also a goal for the dual targets. We've heard several keywords quite often. First, the dual carbon targets. We're all guided by the dual carbon targets. Green supply chain, when it was first launched, was only a marginal topic, but now it's already a mainstream topic. It has turned into the mainstream, even a key link of companies' development. In the past, it was only part of the CSR. And then linking. As you have seen through the panels, a lot of companies are linking upstream and downstream of the supply chain. We also had media, banks, financial institutions. Everybody is linked together. In the past, suppliers only did the supply, but later on, the value chain is created. And now, regarding category 1 and 2 and 3, everybody is closely linked together because all the climate and neutrality commitment made by the brands would have to be realized by the suppliers together. So this is especially deserving our attention. And then data, information, communication. These are also keywords for today. We've all mentioned MRD, about calculation, about disclosure, SPTI, how to design a scientific target. And all of these will have to depend on the preliminary data counting, including disclosure with transparency and openness. We have heard very happily a lot of discussions in this aspect. Dr. Mao, Dr. Yang, and Dr. Tian all talked about this mechanism and how this mechanism will be built in the future. This is especially inspiring. A lot of the companies, also to our excitement, have introduced to us a lot of the good practices. For example, information disclosure. They're doing this voluntarily instead of forced by anybody because that does good to the company itself. It also does good to the brand, to the financial institutions too. Finally, Madam Sun especially pointed out that we shouldn't only do the work, but also tell it to people. Because the biggest emitters are still the companies for the moment, but later on, just like the West, consumption will also be contributing a bigger and bigger part to the end emission. Mr. Jia has been leading the center on this track too, to shift from the supply side to the demand side, the consumers. The greening of our consumption model is a key and difficult point of low carbon transformation. So all the low carbon transformation or greening has to be done by the consumers themselves and also requires the brands to join in. Brands are highly influential. They can do a lot of work to empower the consumers to select a low carbon lifestyle. And in the end, all the efforts on the consumer side will then in turn urge the companies to do better. So together with our concerted efforts, we can achieve the low carbon target. 10 days away, we will hold the COP26. Every year we hold this meeting, but this year it is especially meaningful because the situation is difficult even for the whole world. No matter what kind of ambitious goals we have, we need to be making practices. Media kept asking whether China has sufficiently ambitious goals, but no matter what we say, we will have to focus on the work we do in the end. And the work has to be done by companies and all walks of the society. This is the end of today's forum. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ma. Just like Mr. Ma and all the speakers said, in face of all these global challenges, including climate governance and environmental protection, it takes concerted efforts from the companies and the consumers and all walks of society. I think that is also why we have gathered here to hold this forum together. The forum is about to end, but our work is going to continue. We hope to have more partners joining us in the future to face the world's challenges and build a better home. This is the end of the forum. We'll see you next year. Please return your card back here. And if you got simultaneous headset, please return it to the registration desk. Thank you.